Hey everyone, it's Mark Hochman of PC World, and today we're offering you a look at something very special. A first look at Windows 11. Now the first thing we need to say is that this is not a hoax, this is not an April Fool's joke. This is a leaked early build of Windows 11 that we've had a chance to download and examine. Microsoft is scheduled to hold an event on June 24th where it's unveiling what's next for Windows. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella has said that this is going to be the next generation of Windows, and he himself has tried out and tested what we expect to be Windows 11 on his own. So what we're going to do today is show you some of the key features of Windows 11, as well as sort of a brief visual tour of the operating system. You will basically learn that Windows 11 is not much more than a graphical reskin of Windows 10, at least in its current form. The underpinnings are very much the same, but the top, the UI, looks somewhat to even extremely different. So let's start with the taskbar. Now, one of the things that Microsoft had talked previously about was, or at least intimated that it was coming, was a refresh of its UI, which was codenamed Sun Valley. And Sun Valley was expected to have all sorts of UI refreshes, from rounded corners to various flat icons, which we're seeing here. And that's probably a good place to start. And where we start with Windows is, of course, the Start menu. We can open that up, and we see something that looks somewhat familiar. If you've been following our coverage, you know about Windows 10X, the simplified version of Windows that Microsoft intended to take on Chromebooks and Chrome OS. Microsoft later shelved the operating system and said it was going to bring its features into Windows. That appears to now be within Windows 11. If we look at the Start menu here, we see sort of a list of the usual suspects at the very top. Microsoft has arranged them in its own hierarchical order. We don't see any live tiles. Live tiles was the sort of the fundamental feature of Windows 10 Start menu, with sort of dynamic information that sort of wobbled and shifted and moved about within its individual tiles. Those are gone. So we see the individual apps here. We have a chance to go into the traditional A to Z apps view here, up and down. And we see something new at the bottom, and that is what we would call the recommended files. These appear to be files that were most recently used at this point in time. Microsoft may go ahead and in the future sort of algorithmically determine which recommended files you should see. Remember, it wants you to see files that it thinks that you will need, such as for an upcoming meeting. At the bottom here, we see the power button, sleep, shutdown, and restart, as well as the user account. Now, one of the things that we would normally see next to the Start menu would be the search box. The search box has been removed and replaced with a search icon. What we also do not see here is Cortana. Cortana was the face of Windows 10, and now really it's completely removed from the taskbar. You can actually go ahead and open the Cortana app. You'll see the same Cortana app that you see within Windows 10, sort of limited functionality, but it's there if you want to use it. The search box, though, sort of replaces it, although you actually, again, have to click the box to access it. This looks, again, a little bit, actually, I should say a lot like Windows 10. You have a search box here. You have an option to choose from apps and documents, web, and more. Recent apps are there. You'll see recent searches here. These are things that you might not be searching for, but coronavirus trends, of course, is a hot one. And these are sort of the last the last apps that you've used. You see connected accounts there, and as well as some options. There's the build number there for what I assume to be the search box. Now, if we continue on down through the taskbar icons, again, these are sort of the key features of Windows 11, but again, very similar in some sense to Windows 10. You see, let's go ahead and close that up and actually open Edge, and then go back to Task View. Task View, of course, is something that's in Windows 10. Doesn't get a whole lot of use, and it's a little bit surprising that it's still within Windows 11, but Microsoft still thinks it's a value. You can create a new desktop where if you have a laptop, you can just sort of slide these desktops back and forth, or you can use these as sort of the Alt-Tab version to go between apps and web pages as well. Now, one of the things that I would like to show you next is actually something that I think is going to be one of the hidden features of Windows 11, but one of the most interesting ones as well, and that is the way in which Microsoft has implemented Snap. You might remember from Windows 8 as well as Windows 10 that Snap was one of the interesting the ways that you could go ahead and put a file at the four corners of your screen, or else just go ahead and hit the Windows button and then snap it to the right, snap it to the left. What Microsoft is doing here is something a little bit different. If you hover over, let's just go ahead and bring this back to the center of the screen. If you hover over the Maximize Windows button, you see not just an opportunity to snap these to the four corners of the screen, but also to do something like snap it to, oops, I always want to click on that, snap it to various regions of the screen. And this, I think, is the implementation of the Power Tools Fancy Zones utility. Power Tools was a suite of apps that Microsoft put forward in 2020, both internally developed as well as third-party developer apps. Fancy Zones, I think, was one of the was the first app, and was, in my opinion, the best app that I've seen to date. It allows you to sort of configure windows and organize them on your screen as much as you'd like. This is sort of a cut-down version of Fancy Zones, but again, something that I consider to be pretty cool and useful. It's also interesting, too, that you'll see a different view here depending upon which monitor you're using. This is a 4K monitor that we have at 1080p, and we're seeing a variety of options here. Some of those options disappear if you're using this in a tablet orientation. Now, as far as the rest of Windows 11 is concerned, the most interesting thing and perhaps the most controversial feature within Windows 11 is something new, and that is widgets. We open up widgets and, oh my goodness! This entirely monstrous gargantuan window slides out from the left. And again, you'll notice, can't actually resize it, can't move it down. This is one of the things that is also one of the elements within Windows 11 that is new. There isn't any real user control at this point over the size of the window. And here, what we're seeing is simply a larger, more massive version of the News and Interests tab within Windows 10. News and Interests, I like. I'm biased. I'm a journalist. I like to see news. I like to see my interests, weather, stock prices, sports, news, etc. Some people consider it to be an annoyance, and there's an easy way to turn it off within Windows 10. Right now, we're not sure exactly what widgets are. Widgets could be news and interests, or it could be something more. Remember that we've had sort of Windows gadgets in previous versions of Windows. It's hard to say whether we're going to see those again. For right now, though, what we're seeing is, again, this, I'll use the term monstrous, version of news and interest that slide out from the left-hand side. Again, within Windows 11, the rest of it is pretty straightforward. If you go to the Notification Center down to the right-hand side, you'll see pretty much the same thing you'll see in Windows 10. You'll see sort of the pop-outs there, sort of the icons down below. The one thing that I do like about Windows 11 that hasn't been talked about, or we haven't talked about yet, is simply the sort of the look and feel of it. I don't mean so much, honestly, the UI elements, which again involve these flat icons, as well as the start menu. I love the personalization within Windows 11. I've always loved that within Windows 10. The Bing desktops and the photography are fantastic. And if you go into the settings menu, you get to see a list of actually about four or five that Microsoft has included with Windows 11. Of course, there's a default wallpaper that ships with your PC, but we've got this really awesome sort of full moon science fiction-y thing down here. We've got what I would call the Pringles background, because, you know, it looks like Pringles. And then we've got a couple of versions of these flowery things, which are rather pretty. Not as cool as the Moon Martian option, but again, pretty neat, as well as this sort of basically, you know, very surfacey sort of wallpaper with this sort of astroturfy sort of weeds to the right. So those are your personalization options for wallpapers within Windows 11, and quite frankly, I think they're great. I really enjoy them. But as far as the rest of it's concerned, I mean, you've pretty much seen it. Right now, I will say I ran into a number of apps which were unreliable. You're going to see probably photos pop up now, but I will say that earlier it was giving me trouble. There you go. Paint was also a little bit questionable. Let's see if it actually works right now. I don't know if it's going to. It looks like it's not going to, so we'll go ahead and skip that. I haven't tried too much as far as mail or calendar, but I will say that Edge is within Windows 11. It is the current version of Microsoft Edge, version 91. Everything looks fine. You can sync data if you sign into your account. Edge, I believe, is just as good as Windows 10 in this implementation. So that's it for Windows 11 for right now. Again, we are in an early stage. Microsoft hasn't even announced it. We haven't seen Windows Insider builds. We haven't seen additional code or features come to the operating system. It's possible that Windows 11 will be nothing more than what we see now. It's possible that Windows 11 will be a framework for something new and something amazing as we go forward. I would expect that we will see Insider builds of Windows 11 very quickly. We can go ahead and, for example, see that this is build 21996.1, and it is using a Windows 11 logo just to prove that Windows 11 is, in fact, not a figment of our imagination. I would expect that Windows 11 would probably be released as a consumer finished product probably sometime in the fall. That's a little doubtful because Microsoft's business customers usually get very gun-shy when anything new is released. This may, in fact, be something that's pushed forward to consumers first and foremost and held back for businesses, but that is entirely speculation at this point in time. So that's Windows 11. My initial reaction is that it's I like it. I think it's attractive. I think it has some things that I like. It doesn't change too much from Windows 10, and that's a good thing for most people. There's always the concern it's going to break something. There's always the concern it's going to have some detrimental effect on performance, on games. We still have yet to see what that's going to all shape out to be. But that's it for Windows 11. Please go ahead and continue clicking on to PCWorld.com for tips, whether it be Windows 10 or Windows 11, and continue following following PC World's YouTube channel for more on technology, Windows, and everything else. Thanks for watching.